Yep, so we've already completed that. I'm not sure how I got backwards on that, but
They
again,
do it
we were
backwards,
able to, so include the calculation percent from the, yeah. So we've already done that part. So this is, again, what we are using for our logic model that we're building off of. This is the formula that we would use in order to measure outcome. And so that's just an important piece that we have there. So we decided that we were going to have a 30% success rate with this logic model that we're building and the program that we're hoping to accomplish based upon the formulas that we derived in the previous module, okay?
Gotcha.
So this next part is gonna be really, really fun, and there's only 9 of us, so I actually
How
have-
appropriate.
I know, so good. Yeah, so it's supposed to be, they said 7 to 9, so I have to tell you that we get specific directions within this trainer's manual about what range of batting averages we need to have. I bought 100 baseball cards ranging from 1988 to 1992.
Oh, I can't wait
I
to
got
see.
to open them up, which was really great because I'm a baseball fan. I got to try to make people, oh no.
Steve Sachs, I love, I have an autographed picture
sorry.
from Steve Sachs.
Okay. Sorry. Oh gosh. So, it was hard. I got to open them up and it had the bubble gum. It still had the bubble gum there. So, yeah, says Sean, who tested it out. So, does anybody know what it means to bat 1,000?
Yes.
You never miss.
No. Yeah, you never miss. You bat
You hit
perfectly.
every time.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
you hit the ball every time.
Yeah, every single
Or you
time.
walk.
And so,
No, I don't think the walk is included in the batting
It's
average.
not.
Yeah, you hit.
batting average is just,
successfully
is
hit the
getting a
ball
hit
every
and getting
time.
on base.
Yeah,
And that's what batting average is getting a hit and getting on base. So, baseball's been collecting statistics about batting averages since 1876. Okay, so for a long time, we've been calculating all of that statistical information. And with that, they've published it so that we all know what success means within baseball, which is why we've been able to take the term of batting 1,000 and we integrate that into, non-baseball application all the time. And part of what baseball has done, they've taken the time to collect this data, and they've also informed the public on what an appropriate success rate might be, okay? So with that, how often do you think that batters actually bat 1,000?
10.
On the their very first hit.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So
Their first hit on their first at bat.
Yeah, first at bat,
Maybe
the
first
first
12
to go.
games
And
if
that's
they're
it.
like hot.
Okay, so what we're gonna do right now is I want for you guys to yell out to me the batting averages. Do you guys know, and we're gonna look at the cumulative, on your card?
233.
233,
For
okay?
the career average.
320.
Earlier in his career, so probably got better.
Okay, so 233 is what we're starting out with, okay?
He's kind of
Short.
short, he's 5'11".
No, position. What's in
233, okay, that's the lowest batting average that we have on here.
CB, yeah.
So we'll see how this translates to a percentage of success. 233, wow, I just made a
Less than a
3,
quarter.
kind of funny, okay?
23.3%.
23, okay?
Boy, we can do that. We're good at this.
Yeah, exactly. So, how about other ones?
320.
No,
320, oh,
Mr. Juan Samuel's up there.
I'm sure you will.
32%.
Jim Wright,
Yeah.
my favorite.
No,
He batted 302.
I'm a Mets fan, I'm bored with baseball.
what's that?
She's mad at her guy because he's a Red Sox. Probably the highest batting average of everyone here.
Who
and
is
the
it?
longest career on the cards.
Who
Yeah,
is it,
12 years ago.
lady?
Jim Wright.
Jim Rice?
Okay.
Oh, wow, yeah.
I know.
So
Oh my
320 was
goodness.
the one that Lisa had, so that's just setting the tone up there. So we're just gonna go through a couple of these. Can we get another one?
What number was it?
287.
What is batting
It's written in
average?
words under the,
The batting average
under
is
the
gonna be
table.
right there.
This one?
It
Okay,
should
so
say,
your average.
287.
yeah, it should have a career
287.
average.
Okay, Anybody else?
.302.
No, that's not right. 23.
It's the last one on the bottom on the
It
right?
is, it is.
Yeah.
She got a good one.
So
Okay.
you had.
Oh, I thought you said 2302.
23.
okay,
Well,
anybody else? What
Got
else
it.
we got? 276. Okay.
Who was 233?
Anybody else?
I got the weenie batter. He must have been.
Who is it?
Who is it?
Mark
222.
Macklemore.
I got point three.
Macklemore.
Got 259.
I know, it's a fair amount. Okay.
Point 342.
Point
Who's
342.
that?
What?
Babe Ruth.
He just went and looked one up.
Oh, he's making it up.
No, I'm on.
Because he didn't have a card.
No, 342 is on top of
It's
320.
down from 87.
There should be another one out there that's floating around that's a point 269.
258 over here.
Okay.
259.
Yep, we have a 259, yeah. And so our point here is that we're looking at professional players and we're looking at an industry that collected information over a long period of time and educated the public about what is success.
What is good?
What is considered good, okay? So what we know is that, that
Anything over
the
3 is
distinction here and on our board, what we see is people that are above 300 are above average, okay? And the industry has really dictated that, and they've also made sure that people know that that is what's considered pretty stellar, okay? And then we also know in here that 0.25 to 0.29 is going to be average. So 25% to 29% of success rate is going to be average. We also know that there's a category that is below average, and that below average is below 0.25. So what baseball did is pretty great. They collected these statistics over a good period of time and informed the public about them, okay? We get to talk more about baseball as we turn the page onto page number 68. Here we get a replica of Yogi Berra's card.
Oh,
Okay.
Yogi.
Yeah, so Yogi, it shows here 179 hits of 584 times at bat, or 30.7. So he, he really was pretty stellar with it,
He was a
okay?
philosopher.
Yeah, so there's some additional information about his career here. For the sake of time, I'm not going to read about Yogi's career at this point. But again, at the end of the annual baseball year, there's like 900 major league players and not very many hit above 300.
Right.
There's only about 3%, which is why it took me like 4 packs of baseball cards to get 2 examples of
Above
people.
300.
Exactly. So it's just important to reference what that means. And if we said hitting a home run was the measure of success, then it would
Oh
fall
my
from 30% to 7%. And so this denominator, or this just demonstrates the importance of setting that right indicator, okay? So we've been collecting statistics since 1876. They recorded what happened and analyzed the data, what happened when people were at bat, and they've developed performance standards. And they also have recognized that they've done a lot of things to try to increase that number. They're trying to increase that batting average. We're going to have our pitching mound be at a different place. We're going to change the construction of, our bats. We're going to change these things. But they've had little success with doing that. There's not a lot that changes it. And these are still the things that really govern success within that industry and gives us some sort of measure of success when people are above that average of 30%. So what did they do that we don't as a network?
Collect information.
advertise.
Yeah,
Advertise the success
Communicate.
rate, what the success means.
and that's exactly it. They analyzed their data, they clearly defined their indicator. We know that getting a hit and getting on base is that indicator there. They observed performance, they kept the data, and they developed benchmarks for success,
Benchmarks,
okay?
right.
We have these benchmarks, which I should just clarify right now and show you. These are the benchmarks, These
Yep.
are like, we're below, we're average, we're above. So we have benchmarks to determine success from, and we educated the public so that people knew. So in the nonprofit sector, we are actually, what they say, we're expected to increase our results by 10% annually.
Wow,
How
Yeah,
can you do
that's
that?
huge.
right? I know. So many questions, so
Well,
many
10%
questions,
annually,
right?
so in 10 years, we're perfect.
We're perfect, yeah, so we are working on it. So if we look on page 70, it's kind of interesting information. We're not going to go through all of these, but let's go through the first few examples. What do you think is the success rate for executive management recruitment placement rate? 20%. Okay. How about with DuPont, that one there?
Where's that?
So DuPont is towards the bottom. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all around right now, but this one's just one
Oh.
in
0.5 at best, I guess.
0.04. 1 in 250 of their ideas generate one major marketable new item. Okay? How about Pfizer?
Nope.
That's like 100% for sure.
No, it's probably way.
So
low.
Pfizer,
One
1 in
1,000.
100 new drugs, or
Oh.
1% make it to the market
Terrifying.
after 10 to 12 years of the development of that product.
That's their excuse.
And you
for
wonder why they
charging
cost so
more.
much, yeah, right.
So community action has to establish our own set of standards and communicate those standards so that everybody recognizes when we accomplish success, or when we are
Realize
successful.
success.
Yeah, when we realize success, because we do. We just have to make sure that we have identified what that means and that we've communicated, to the public and to our funders exactly what that looks like. Okay?
CDs.
We have to educate. We have to educate folks on what that might look like. Okay? We also have to be very realistic when we are targeting our numbers. Okay? So with baseball, it would be,
Call them CDs, that's how
really
this is.
unrealistic for somebody to come in and be like, I'm gonna bat 600. They've now established what those norms are. So we need to be realistic with how we're planning, and we have to be able to use real numbers to target if we can, whenever that's possible. And again, remember, with this theory of change and our performance management, now we're reporting out on how many we actually predicted. So our ability to predict our success rate is actually a factor that we look at, or what the national and at that federal level, what they look at is how successful are you with, coming up with a realistic prediction. Okay?
Huh. So you measure how far off you were,
Mhm.
not just what your actual was,
Yep.
but how far off.
Yeah, and we'll jump
Forecast,
into
right.
that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's actually on page
I'm sorry,
72.
Lainey. I spoke
But
right
it's
over
really,
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, does the national, this is curiosity, because I love doing data. Does the national database break it out by region
Pardon
or?
me.
Because
state
there's success-
offices.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's state offices that then feed into that national database
Okay.
for, yep, exactly.
So, 'cause
So,
success here is not,
is-
you
yeah,
got big
Well, it's-
7,000 million people.
yeah.
We
And that's
no money.
also why we have to, just those
We like our
standards and
success.
making sure that we're realistic with what we're targeting, because that helps too with how that looks. So let's move on to page number 71. Can I get somebody to read in addition to all the way down to ending with service?
Yeah, they come from.
Google.
Okay. In addition to the performance related to the number of outcomes achieved compared to the numbers served, calculating agencies performed for some of the items in the National Performance Indicators, NPIs, include another dimension. It is based on a different formula than the one we previously learned.
Of course it is.
Performance in this case refers back to one of the key provisions of GPRA. Agencies must be able to accurately identify performance goals or targets prior to beginning service.
Okay, cool. So again, we've already talked about this. There's not only that idea of what we want to accomplish, but we also have to evaluate our effectiveness with predicting what kind of outcomes that we're gonna have. So targeting the ability, so what we wanna do is we have to accurately identify performance goals or targets prior to the beginning of services. And it's an expectation with the GIPRA stuff. So we're gonna target our ability percent let me slow down here. Within the annual report, because we plug everything in online, they're automatically gonna calculate everything, which is really cool. That's the benefit of that format for us to be there. So it's important to understand what these calculations mean. Even though they're automatically produced, we still have to talk about what that process is and why we're doing it. So performance calculation will be comparing the numbers targeted versus the number that actually achieved, and it does not use the number of those that are receiving services. So its measurement is really designed to identify the ability of us to project our performance, okay? So we've talked a lot about this already, and on page 72, it jumps into it a little bit further. We're gonna go back to that example that we had previously used. I think I lost the page, or the part, no, I didn't. Okay, so here, remember, we had talked about, you know, how many people were gonna actually accomplish that, and what we wanna look at right now is how much we were able to successfully project, you know, what we were gonna do, okay? So.
Oh, interesting, okay.
We had targeted that 7 out of 20, okay? So we targeted people, so our target is there, but this is the actual number that had achieved. So right now, this is telling a different statistical story. This is a different numerical story because 71%, so we were 71% accurate with our prediction that people were going to, you know, the level of completion and accomplishment of that outcome. And sometimes those are different for a number of reasons. You know, funding changes, you know, there's a lot of different factors that are gonna go into it, but anytime you're outside of a 20% plus or minus range, so 80 to 120%, you have to provide that explanation. You have to tell the CSBG office, this is different because we were able to, you know, do A, B, and C. And we see that with some of the programs that we operate.
Interesting.
HUD
So
likes
this is one you would have to explain then, because it's
Yeah.
71%, so you would have to say why you were farther out of it.
Exactly, and so, and you can explain there's lots of different reasons that could happen. There could be a change in staff, there could be just a number of different things that would contribute to those success rates, but it's important for us to look at. So again, the numerator in this is the actual outcomes achieved, and the denominator is the number that we have projected to achieve those outcomes. So it fulfills that GEPRA requirement that we be able to target effectively. Cool?
Wow, I like it.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's, you know, we have to be able to plan for that. We have to be accountable. You know, we have to be accountable for knowing what we're doing, for using the data. And I really think that this is also a reflection of how well we implement these other pieces there, because implementing these other pieces there, we have some data and some information that we can take into our predictions. So it's really a cool measure of accountability for us as an agency, okay? So we have moved on now. I guess we're still on page 72 there. Yeah, so the self-sufficiency program, we're able to predict our own agency performance, get that, and we also were able to predict the client performance. However, we saw that there was a slight deviation with it because of those dropout rates. So this is all really critical data pieces that we have to be able to reflect back on as we move forward. So one thing that we want to do is talk some about how, on page 73, when you consider, just if somebody actually could just read that first paragraph, that would be helpful. When you consider outcomes, page 73.
When you are considering that part, first one?
Yep. When you are considering the outcomes you expect to achieve.
You need to consider
How you will measure.
Yep. How you measure.
the outcomes.
Yep.
When we consider the identifications of the indicator.
In the last module.
I provided examples that included thinking about how you would measure the indicator.
For example,
Improved grades, report card, greater than report card.
Now we need to look more closely.
the measurement tools
And processes.
That you will.
use as evidence.
I love it, you guys. That was like a that was awesome improv there. Way to like liven it up in the afternoon. So
Sounded
kept going.
much more colorful.
That's an awesome team effort right there.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm seriously disappointed in those who didn't participate.
yeah.
You guys jumped in too quickly.
Everybody's just okay. So here what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the importance of using measurement tools, and so like how we're gonna measure. But here are some shortcuts, and those are the ones that are outlined there. So minimize soft outcomes. Soft outcomes are self-report. You know, self-report is, yeah, there's some value in it, and especially with our renewed focus on customer, you know, but it's really, that's not the preferred. So we need to use a measurement tool to capture the outcomes. So that measurement tool might be the report card. And we need to use a pre-existing measurement tool before creating one. So let's not